If you see QP by your recommended rep target, this typically means we are targeting the exercise tempo of 1-3-x1 for pausing after the eccentric portion of the movement, or 1-1-x3 if we are pausing after the concentric portion of the movement. QP stands for quick pause, and this is my preferred tempo scheme I use to strengthen a client's ability to perform a specific movement. This tempo scheme does a good job at revealing dysfunction. More will be explained later in this tempo breakdown video. For now, let's see what this tempo scheme looks like for a movement like the 30-degree barbell press, where the pause takes place after the eccentric portion of the movement. Then we will look at the band face pull, where the pause takes place after the concentric portion of the movement. For the 30-degree barbell press, we will start with the bar over our collarbone with the eccentric portion of the movement. This is represented by the number 1, where we lower the weight with control for a second. After we've reached the bottom position of this exercise, we will hold that position for a duration of 3 seconds. Often, we count faster than realized seconds, so I advise counting to 5 instead. After the pause, we will rapidly press up to starting position. This is represented by the X. We will check our posture for a second to ensure we are not misaligned for our next repetition for a second. This is represented as 1. Now, the band face pull starts with both arms extended, reaching towards the band's origin point. From here, we will begin the concentric contraction for the posterior muscles of the back. This is represented by X. X signifies it should be performed in a rapid or explosive manner. After this portion, we will pause for the duration of 3 seconds, represented by the 3. Like the other exercise demonstration, I recommend counting to 5 instead of 3. From here, we will lower the weight with control for a second. Now we should be at starting position. We will reset our posture for a second to ensure we are not misaligned before the next repetition for a second. This tempo's effectiveness is low with certain movements, such as the deadlift. During the deadlift, if we rest the bar after the eccentric portion of the movement, the bar is simply on the ground. We are not engaging or challenging any position. Modifying this movement, such as performing a Romanian deadlift instead, will increase the tempo's effectiveness. By not resting the weight on the ground, we can more effectively challenge the hinged position to the range of motion that we stop. What is the purpose of the quick pause tempo scheme? The position we pause in is the end range for an exercise. For example, with the face pull, we are pausing at the end of the pull where we get maximum contraction of the posterior delts, mid-trapezius, infraspinatus, and teres minor. Pausing in this position will strengthen these muscles in the shortened position, which means the opposite muscles are being stretched significantly. This is why I enjoy using this tempo scheme in exercises such as the glute bridge. Oftentimes in today's society, we sit too much and our hip flexors become excessively tight. By performing a glute bridge with a quick pause tempo, ideally after foam rolling and stretching of course, we are able to not only strengthen the glutes but simultaneously engage the hip flexors in a lengthened position. This is the tempo scheme I often use first when training my clients. Oftentimes my clients move too rapidly between phases of an exercise. By pausing at the end range of the movement, we can achieve the benefits mentioned earlier, building stability in a often, quote, weak position. Again, this weak position is simply a position where a group of oftentimes lengthened muscles are shortened and are contracting. The posterior muscles of the scapula, such as the middle trapezius and the rotator cuffs, responsible for external rotation, and the glutes are some examples. This tempo scheme also does a great job at revealing asymmetries or compensation patterns. By holding the end range of an exercise, it reveals compensation patterns, immobility, and other potential problems. One such example is if the client is feeling their TFL during the clamshell rather than their glutes. This often happens, and is easily discovered while performing with a quick pause tempo scheme. The conclusion from what I've stated previously. This is a tempo scheme I often use to strengthen, quote, weak positions. Please become familiar with this tempo scheme since you will be using it quite frequently and will become important to ensure we maintain or improve our mobility and stability.